Welcome to Visual Studio Online Fundamentals. In this session, we're going to be going through Application Insights 101. I'm James Tupper.
And I'm Stephen Borg.
We're going to be covering what Application Insights is, as well as what it looks like in the new Azure portal. So, Steve, what is Application Insights?
So, Application Insights is a new tool published by Microsoft that helps do application performance monitoring. It lets you know things like how many times has your website been accessed, what's the performance of your virtual machines in the cloud, things like their CPU usage and those sorts of things. There's a lot of details in there. And why I call it the new Application Insights is that it was originally launched with Visual Studio Online, and it's been a very tight component of Visual Studio Online. Really cool, powerful functionality built right into Visual Studio Online. In fact, you'd go to your Visual Studio Online account, and there was a link right there. Now, it's been a little bit pulled out. We have this new portal in Azure coming, portal.azure.com. It's pretty much here. You can do most of your administration. And that Application Insights stuff in Visual Studio Online has been pulled away into Azure. It is such an incredible feature that it's been moved from just Visual Studio Online, which is a part of Azure, to its own part of Azure. It's that fundamental. So what we're going to be doing today is showing Application Insights on the new portal, and then probably how to configure it today as well.
Yeah.
So Application Insights gives you an insight into the way your application is running, what websites are being hit, etc. That kind of a neat thing. Let's dive into a demonstration and start by walking through the portal. So let's talk about how to use Application Insights. I'm at the portal.azure.com here, and if you look, I've just basically can see the web health here, and we're going to dive into Azure more deeply in another session. But in this session, we're taking a look at Application Insights specifically. So I want to browse, and I'm going to browse to Application Insights. So let's scroll down, grab Application Insights. Again, it's a key fundamental part of the Azure experience today. So if I open it up, I have a lot of different Application Insights things that were created for me. I can tie these to all of these ASP.NET websites, but for our purposes, we've wanted to take Application Insights and group some things together with them. So here is the Application Insights that I've created and lit up. So if I drill into that Application Insights, I can see some things like server requests, etc., for this VCDev Application Insights. You'll notice down here there are no requests for this time period. That can be a little confusing. If you click it, it pops up and says, here's kind of a timeline. There's no data available. Let's make sure we set the time range appropriately. So I'm going to click the time range and say, potentially for the last 3 days. So now we can see that we've had server requests, we've had some bumps in here. And as we scroll down, we can look at things like our server response times. We had some really slow response times, and we've dropped down, and we've gotten a lot faster as we've done some of these additional tests. Our server requests, we can look at these and see the total number of requests. We've had 13,000 requests, 648 particular ones. We've had the website response times, had some pretty bad response times, all the way down to much faster response times, kind of depending, a 500 millisecond range to return. Also, I've set up some tests against this to constantly reach out and ping the websites to make sure it's up. I've had 24 successful tests. During that period of time, 0 of those have failed. Other things I can see. What are my slowest response times? This particular one, login callback, is one of the worst. So when we are first logging in, we're making that call and kind of negotiating, and that seems to take a long time. Some reports, this particular Acme report, this control chart, seems to take a long time to render, as does some of the other reports. I can see failed requests here. I can look at the sessions per browser, and in all of these, you can do things like drill in. I can click it in, see a little bit more. I like 1.7 thousand Internet Explorer pings against that. At Chrome, we see Chrome 37. We've had 2 unique browser sessions, one Safari session. I think the Safari session was probably yours.
Yeah.
off your phone. The Internet Explorer ones and the unknown ones, those were created by a load test that I ran and kind of pushed against it. So you can see some of the things that have happened. We can drop into the top page views, view things here, the number of sessions as we go, etc. There's a lot of fairly informative stuff. Now, Application Insights provides insight not just into the web pages and the responsiveness, but we can also go and view like the servers themselves. So uptime, downtime, and whenever you create a new something, a new virtual machine, a new website in Azure, it automatically tags a couple of those for you to track those and sends it into the Application Insights. And that's kind of a walkthrough. It gives you this ability to understand what's happening inside of your particular website. Now, I have to go back, and I do need to talk about where this is going. We have seen the future, and the future is our past. When Visual Studio Online was hosting the Applications Insight portal, there was a lot more functionality that was available to you, and you can still see it. It's not gone. It's just in the old portal. So if you go to portal.microsoftazure.com, you're going to see a fuller view of your data, a little bit more details. I can see a little button whenever I've deployed a new app into that website, for instance, whenever there's a new build that was deployed. There's a lot of other details that are really very, very powerful. So if you want to get a view of what's coming, simply go into what we had. If you go to your Visual Studio account and click on the Application Insights button there, you'll see a different variety of things. And some of those, I have to say, are very powerful. If you get a failure, for instance, in your website, you can simply click on it and drill all the way down into the code that launched that website and that had the problems there. And that's in production. So highly recommend Application Insights. What you've seen here is just the glimmerings as it's moving to the new portal. Very rapidly, you're going to see a lot more really cool functionality.
That's a lot of really cool stuff. You get to see page response times. You get to go all the way down into the server and actually see some of the calls that are actually happening to the application itself, right? It looks pretty complicated though. Like how do you actually set that up, right? Is it easy? What if I was a user brand new and I wanted to start using Application Insights? What would I do? How do I get there?
That is a fantastic question. Let's show you. I'm going to close out this portal completely, and we're going to open up Visual Studio and walk through a potential example. Now, there's 2 areas. We need to set up Application Insights to get a particular key that we use, and we need to do something in Visual Studio. So let's start in Visual Studio with simply a File, New Project. And for a new project, I'm going to choose a web application, and I'm going to call it my test web app, for lack of a better thing. And on the very right-hand side of your project, right now, out of the box, do you want to add Application Insights to the project? And there's a button, a click. You simply select it and say, what subscription do you want to use? I want to use my Steve MSDN subscription for Application Insights. Where do we send telemetry to? I want a new Application Insights resource, and I'm going to default it to my project name. I have one called My Web I could use. Let's create a new one, and we can configure those settings if we wanted to change the project name or something like that to use something else. We could just type something else in there. I'm not going to add this one to source code control for now. You very much should. It just takes a little bit longer in the demo. And we click OK. And my test web app, then we can say it's an MVC app. I'm not going to host it in Azure. I probably should be hosting it in Azure. But once again, we just need to trim this down for the demo. And MVC is here. We're off and running. And we click OK. And it spins up the My Test web app project. And frankly, it's doing all the hard work for me. It reaches out, it does all the configuration, it's setting it up. Look, you can see right here, it's adding application insights to the project. It's just getting a couple NuGet packages. So if you have a project that already exists, you can really right-click, and there's a shortcut on your project that says Add Application Insights if it's a web project. Or you could go in and do it yourself manually by setting up some NuGet properties. What this brings me to, once it's updated, is I have an applicationinsights.config file. You can see here's the configuration. And down here is the key for this resource. So this resource, My Test Web App, you need to have the right key for your Azure portal. So in other words, when I go to portal.azure.com and I'm looking under Application Insights, this key is provided under the My Test Web App. So the only reason I'm pointing that out is if you wanted to do it separately, you could. This does everything for you, so you don't get no confusion. And off I go. I now publish, and I am off and running. Let's go back to Azure, and I'm logged in here, and let's browse through and take a look at Application Insights. And here is My Test Web App, and my application it's now configured to start gathering that data. Now, a couple different things. We're not out of the woods yet. We still need to run our application. We need to deploy it, but there's some code we need to run. So we've added Application Insights. We need to add some code to monitor our web pages. So on each web page, if you're doing websites and you want to say which are the most popular ones, here is the code. And it auto-populates everything for you. Take a look. There's my instrumentation key, everything I need, and you just copy that thing up and back to your Visual Studio and pull up one of your views. We may have the view start, and every page you want to track, like our layout. This might be the one that we're using to render everything, our core one, or if everything we wanted to render here. And right under the head tag, we would add that. And actually, very interesting, it's already added it for me. I thought I had one more step. That would be the step you take if you needed to light it up yourself. Oh my goodness, it is in here already, and there it is. Already instrumented my entire app. So, if you were to do it yourself, you go in and create an Application Insights, cut and paste that, paste it here, make sure you have Application Insights applied, but if you want to start from scratch, man, it's easy. File, new project, website, click the Add Application Insights button, and you are in. So basically, there is no excuse not to have Application Insights just lit up. Very small performance hit against your server. It's just a little piece of JavaScript that needs to run, and you can start to monitor a lot of what's going on. And I should say, we've talked a lot about deploying to Azure here, and the ones we have are deployed in Azure. It doesn't have to be deployed to Azure. You could be deployed to your own data center, on premises. It doesn't really matter as long as you have this little chunk, this script right here that's executing when people browse to that page. So, no excuses. In this demo, we've really gone through just what is Application Insights. We've bandied around a little bit about going back to the old Application Insights to see what's coming. And we've shown you how to configure Application Insights on your environment. So head out there, set it up, and we'll see you gathering some data very shortly.